Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into something most of us have right in our pockets, the credit card. It seems so simple, right? Just a little piece of plastic, but it has totally reshaped how we spend, how we borrow, and maybe even how we think about our future. So let's get into how this whole thing started.
I mean, seriously, just take a second to think about that. This little rectangle lets you buy things you don't have the cash for right now. It helps build your entire financial reputation, and it's the engine of a multi-trillion-dollar global industry. How on earth did we get here? Well, the story is way more fascinating and, honestly, a lot more accidental than you might imagine.
Oh right, so our story begins not in some high-tech lab or a fancy bank boardroom. Nope. It starts in a restaurant. And it wasn't born from some grand financial strategy. It was born from a moment of pure, relatable embarrassment.
That's right, a forgotten wallet. The year is 1949, and a businessman named Frank McNamara is wrapping up a dinner with a client in New York City. He reaches for his pocket and nothing. He forgot his wallet. He had to make that awkward call to his wife to bring him some cash. He was so mortified by this that he thought there has to be a better way, and he came up with an idea for a card that could be used at multiple restaurants so you could just settle the bill later. He famously called that dinner the First Supper.
So from that one embarrassing dinner, the Diners Club was born. It launched in 1950, and get this, it was made of cardboard. At first, it was only accepted at 27 restaurants. But that idea of paying for meals without carrying cash really caught on, especially with businessmen. And by 1951, it already had over 20,000 members. It was kind of a slow burn at first, but a revolution had quietly kicked off. Now this next part is absolutely crucial to understand. The original Diners Club card was a charge card, not a credit card like we know today. And the key difference? It was all about convenience. You had to pay the entire bill in full at the end of the month. There was no borrowing, no carrying a balance, and absolutely no debt. But that simple model, purely for convenience, wasn't going to last forever. Because when the banks saw what was happening, they saw a massive opportunity. They stepped in and they completely changed the purpose of that piece of plastic. And folks, this is where the story takes its most important turn. Here was the radical, game-changing idea the banks introduced. You didn't have to pay your balance in full anymore. You could carry it over or revolve it into the next month. The catch, of course, was that you'd be charged interest on whatever you didn't pay off. And just like that, the entire focus shifted. It went from being about customer convenience to being about bank profit. The age of credit as we know it had begun.
So this concept of revolving debt, that's the engine. It's the engine that powers the entire modern credit card industry. It's what transformed the card from a simple tool for paying for stuff into an incredibly powerful lending machine, creating this endless stream of revenue for the banks through interest payments.
Okay, so the banks had their profit model. But for it to really, truly explode, they needed one more thing: less regulation. For years, state laws put a cap on how much interest they could charge, but that was all about to change thanks to a single pivotal Supreme Court case. This was it. This was the moment the industry was well and truly unleashed. And what's wild is that the court case wasn't even technically about credit cards, but its ripple effect would end up creating the financial world we all live in today.
So in 1978, the Supreme Court basically ruled that banks could export the interest rate laws from their home state to customers all across the country. What did that mean? Well, a bank in a state with no interest rate cap could now offer high-interest cards to anyone, anywhere. The profit potential became limitless, and the banks went all in. They started mass mailing pre-approved credit cards to millions of Americans in what became known as the Great Drop. The industry just exploded overnight.
Now, this financial explosion didn't just change our wallets. It started to change our minds. See, for this to work on a massive scale, the industry had to do something huge. They had to transform the very idea of debt from something to be ashamed of into something to be desired. And just look at this contrast. It's incredible. Before all this, being in debt was often seen as a personal failing, a sign you were living beyond your means. But through decades of really clever marketing, that whole idea got flipped on its head. Debt was rebranded as credit, a smart tool, a path to financial freedom, a way to get the lifestyle you wanted right now.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The card wasn't just for paying for dinner anymore. It became a symbol of status, of aspiration, of access. It started to represent the power to buy into the American dream, one swipe at a time.
So this whole history brings us right here,
to today. The ripple effects of that forgotten wallet, that shift to revolving debt, and that one court decision, well, they're all around us, shaping our financial lives every single day.
Look at this number, $1.13 trillion. That's the total credit card debt just in the United States as of late 2023. That single number tells you everything you need to know about the sheer scale and power of the system that grew from that one simple idea in a New York restaurant.
So you have to wonder, right? A trillion-dollar system of lending can't just run on trust. To manage all that risk and to decide who gets access to this power and who doesn't, another invention was needed. And this one would become just as influential as the card itself.
And that, of course, is the credit score. This little three-digit number now governs so much of our lives. It's not just about getting a loan anymore. It determines if you can get a mortgage, rent an apartment. It even affects your insurance rates. It is the ultimate gatekeeper to the financial world that the credit card created.
So, the next time you pull that card out of your wallet, just remember its incredible journey. From a simple solution for a forgotten wallet to the backbone of global finance. It offers amazing convenience, but it's built on a foundation of debt. The plastic in your wallet is both of those things at once. So the real question is, what does that piece of plastic truly represent to you?